Everybody, and thank you, Mary, and welcome to Stephanie as well. Thank you for joining. Um, so this is our first look in this cycle at Georgia, which is clearly a swing state and has gotten an awful lot of attention, uh, since 2020, and it doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. And I think that's important context for examining these what are normally early numbers, but nonetheless probably a little bit more defined than they might be in other states, which hasn't had so much controversy being played out on a daily basis. This poll was done from March 11th to March 14th. It was interviews of 1,283, I'm sorry, residents of Georgia, and the ER margin was plus or minus 3.5, and there's more detail on the nature of the sample and all those things in the packets that you have available to you. I would say at the start, as we go through some of the numbers and some of the key findings here, that compared to what happened 4 years ago, Joe Biden needs some more convincing and is actually in a position of needing to play a little bit of catch up, and you'll see why in a sec. But some of these internal numbers are not as strong for him as they might otherwise be, or they might otherwise want them to be. So in terms of the registered voters that we looked at, obviously for, Biden carried it by a whisker. The 11,000 plus votes that become very famous last time, right now is trailing by 4 points, 51 to 47 among registered voters in the state. And part of that has to do with his base not being as strong as Trump's base is for him. 4 years ago, in the exit polls, Biden's base was actually stronger Democrats for him than Republicans were for Trump. Now the opposite is the case, whereas 94% of Republicans are in Trump's corner, only 90% of Biden's are in his corner. In the terms of independence, there's also an issue that I think needs to be thought and looked at. Last time in the state, in the election, Biden carried independents by 9 points. Right now they're breaking even. So there's two solid examples of issues, numbers where Biden is, needing to play catch up. In terms of whites, he's doing a little better among whites than he was 4 years ago, but not nearly as well among African American voters. And we've been seeing that in other states, but clearly that's the case in Georgia as well. Young people, a group that was pivotal for him last time. He carried him by double digits. Right now, he's trailing by 5 points among young people. So these are all kind of warning signs, and underscore the notion that he needs to, literally do more convincing and play a little catch up. There are voters who dislike both Biden and Trump, and Biden gets the advantage of those by double digits. So, the numbers that were important in 2016, the people who were uncomfortable with both well-known candidates in Clinton and Trump, right now, with, again, well-known candidates in this rematch, the people who dislike both of them are, tipping towards Biden. That's a positive for him. Among those who don't approve of him, but don't strongly disapprove of him, just mild negatives, he does get close to a third of them. So when you hear his approval rating is around 40, and that's a low number, yes it is, but there are people who dislike Trump enough that Biden's weak approval rating doesn't totally knock him out of the box. We also looked at some issues, and again here, I think that the Biden camp is going to have to, go back and look to their playbook a little bit more, because the economy, he's down 15 points to Trump. On abortion, which has been an issue that clearly the White House and Trump, the Biden campaign have trumpeted. Single-digit edge on abortion. Yes, better among women, but not so overwhelmingly so. And then on the question of preserving democracy, and that obviously is one where Georgia has been ground zero in terms of all that's been going on from a legal standpoint. 50% go to Biden as the one preserving democracy, only 49% for Trump. So I shouldn't say only, and 49% for Trump. So they break pretty much even on the question of preserving democracy. That's not a winning number for Joe Biden, and where it can't be for him in November, in order for him to be successful in the state. What I find also interesting in these numbers is that despite all the criticism of the electoral process that has gone on since 2020 through the present, people in Georgia have a very favorable outlook towards the integrity of their electoral process, whether more than 2/3 think it'll be a fair and accurate election, and that includes 62% of Republicans. So although there may be concern about the process of what went on 4 years ago, people are still comfortable with the integrity of that process. And a couple more numbers, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have on this. In terms of the questions of illegality, residents in Georgia, 44% think that Donald Trump did something illegal. That's 80% of Democrats and almost half of independents thinking that, but only 7% of Republicans. That's a low number, and again, shows the base being solid for Trump. However, possible Achilles heel is on the question of immunity. Should Donald Trump be granted immunity if convicted? 55% overall say no, and 24% of Republicans are in that group. So on that question raises the issue of if he were convicted, right now there seems to be some falling out for Trump on the question of immunity. And I think I'll just address one more point and then take any questions that you might have. And that's the question of whether Robert Kennedy, as a minor party candidate, has a big bearing on this. And part of the answer is no, he doesn't really affect the numbers. He draws 14%, but pretty evenly from both candidates. And the thing about the Kennedy candidacy right now, although it's had a lot of attention in the pundit community, 39% of Georgia voters don't have enough opinion on him to rate him. So he's still a very unknown entity, and that is something that will be, in the months ahead, presumably become more informative as he gets better known. So bottom line, a trailing by a slight number in Georgia, in a state he narrowly won by a whisker last time, and part of it has to do with the issues, and he just has more convincing to do. So that's sort of a 10,000-foot view on this.